Welcome to the Complete Game Podcast, where we're all about baseball with Ethan Dungan, owner of Glovehound Baseball Glove Repair Shop, Rick Finley, founder of MD&I Baseball Academy, and the creator of George Foster Baseball, the MVP himself, Reds Hall of Famer George Foster. I'm your host, Greg Dungan. Now let's talk baseball. All right. Well, welcome back to, what is this, episode 14 now? So,
Thursday.
Yeah, looking forward to another great discussion here. Today, we're going to be talking about strategies for how to play all your players and still be competitive. We believe that it's possible, and we're going to kind of share some ideas on how these fellows have done it from time to time, and maybe offer some helpful suggestions to guys out there who are coaching, who are trying to remain competitive, but yet at the same time want to make sure everybody gets some playing time. So going to be doing that. Also wanted to shout out to our Reds for yesterday. They managed to dig themselves out of a possible first sweep and made that come through. So that was kind of cool.
42 in a row, not getting swept.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. So we're kind of excited for them there. Ethan and I were at the game Saturday night. Took Jose's glove back to him and went down and watched the game. That was a lot of fun. That was the first game I've been to in a couple of years. So had some good seats on the first base side and
enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, we did. We sat around.
Good. Castellini's enjoy that. Bring your money.
Yeah, buddy. We sat around some really nice people and had a great time.
Got two innings of free baseball at the end. So
2 innings of free baseball. Yeah, that's true.
Good.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. Had a good time. So, all right, well, let's kick it off today. We're going to start with name 5. So we're going to name 5 common reasons why players receive less playing or no playing time. So and we're going to go around and everybody's going to give one, and then we're going to decide on a 5th one here at the end. But we're going to take a look at what are the reasons why this problem happens and why it exists. So Ethan, why don't you kick us off and we'll kind of go around the table.
My first one is going to be lack of utility for the individual player, because that is something that they can control. So maybe your primary position is a little clogged up. You got a lot of competition, but there's a weaker spot elsewhere in the field that you're just not willing to try to go out for, or something like that. So yeah, mine's going to be positional competition or refusal to kind of try something else. I remember we coached a team. I was a fall ball team, and we had a really, really good second baseman, great second baseman, pitched a little bit. And I don't remember exactly what the situation was, but I remember it would have been very helpful. Could he have played a little bit of outfield or played a little bit of third base? He was like, no, I'm a second baseman. We were like, okay, then I guess you're going to have to sit and wait your turn, or we had to do something else. So it just would have been helpful had he been a little bit more flexible in where he could play.
Cool.
Well, I think that all should be discussed when you're trying out.
Yeah.
And letting the kid know, okay, we need a third baseman and you play second. If you're willing to play third, then fine. But that should be discussed while you're doing a tryout, or even before, letting them know what we're looking for. Because he plays second, but we're looking for a third baseman. But I know I was in the same situation back in the 70s.
Yeah.
That's so long ago. And so I was with the Giants, so they had Bobby Bonds and this other guy, what's his name, Willie Mays, and then a guy named Ken Henderson. So I wasn't going to get a chance to play that much in the outfield. But third base was open. He said, we would like to play third base. And I said, I would like to stay in one piece. Third base was too close to the batter. So I declined. But they had me at first base a little bit, but it was okay until a Willie McCovey or Willie Stargell came up. So I'm playing back on the grass because I don't want one carrying off my knee or so. But my reasoning is, I would say that a lot of times the coach is too concerned about winning and not developing. And I feel from the age of 8 to 12, let the kids, make sure everybody play.
Yeah.
Then as you get into high school, then now you start to specialize. But making sure that you're not focusing on winning compared to developing. I feel that the winning is the byproduct, or letting that kid go out there and to develop.
I agree. I agree with both of these guys. And to kind of circle back around of kids playing other positions, I think that if parents would attend practice, you can see your kids' strengths and weaknesses. You can't rely on practice to get better. If you don't practice enough outside of practice on their own, they won't get better. You won't get developed. So you can't point the blame on coaches all the time. I think that more parents and I get at least from 8 to 12, they got to advocate a little bit for their kid, and then after that, 13 and 14, then the kids should start advocating for themselves, asking the coach, hey, can I play this position or whatever? So, and I'll keep it as that.
Yeah. I think one of the big reasons is a lack of practice time. I think it's hard for a player to prove that they have what it takes to play if all they have is game time. Like for instance, let's say you take the 9 that you figure are going to be your regular starters. You got a couple of pitchers, but then you take some utility players or guys who come on as pitcher only or that kind of thing. And if you only ever play games, then those kids don't have a chance to show you they could play third base or right field or something. And
the trust is not there.
Yeah, and so when you don't have that opportunity to earn a spot by showing that you've got it, or let's say you bring on some players at the beginning of the year and you've got a whole season ahead of you. Well, let's say that one of those kids really is hungry for playing time and he's putting in all the extra work, he's taking lessons, he's doing everything he can do. And, by middle of the season, this kid's built some skill and he could really show you something. But if there's no practice, no opportunity to do that, then he's kind of at the end of the season, he is what he was at the beginning of the season, and there wasn't much he could do to prove himself otherwise. Mm-hmm. So a lack of practice time, if all we ever do is play games, that makes it tough.
Yes. I blame a lot of it on the coach and also on the parent.
Yes.
So I try to encourage the parent to ask the coach, how much do you practice? Because I know the importance of practicing, so not only helping the kid get better, but see what they can do best.
Yeah.
And I'm not in agreement that you change position every inning, because if you haven't practiced, the kid doesn't know how to play that position.
Yeah. Right.
So
Exactly.
What is going to be asked of me?
Yes.
So what I did also, I brought kids out maybe 3 or 4 and at a time, so I can really focus on those kids. I know he needs to work on ground balls or fly balls, or just because especially if the kid had good speed. I want to see him in the outfield to run down the ball. But back again, the coach is important to practice and not say only games. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of coaches just play only games so he can get around not practicing.
Yeah. Another big one is carrying too big of a roster and just having too many players.
Yes.
And that's something that like you always advocate for. It should be addressed at a tryout.
Yeah.
But I played with some teams who thought they were big stuff and carried giant rosters, and playing time was always an issue. I played with some better teams who were less concerned about that, who carried much smaller rosters and didn't have that problem. And it's hard because you can't predict injuries. You can't predict when somebody's going to have a life issue that conflicts with playing time. But trying to keep that roster slim is one of the easiest ways, because it's just one less kid that has to get out there.
Right. I usually have maybe 12, and I made a bad decision before. I went to like 15 thinking that, but find out these kids the guy has good speed, and at least work with him, getting him to the game to pinch run or get up there to bunt. But it's all of a sudden he was more a football player, just give me the ball, because they know that, I'll get the ball and run through this hole. But in baseball, like, even though the pitcher will tell you it's going to be a fastball, it may not be in that certain spot. Sure. So he didn't have the baseball skill, but he had good speed. So having like 12, I think is going to be good. But to piggyback on what Ethan said, is for somebody getting injured, but you still can go out and find other players that are available.
And
So
there's plenty of
you're not
movement that
restricted
happens
to that.
mid-season.
Oh yeah,
Plenty of
we
movement.
go to some of these tournaments and find out that some of these kids are playing for 2 and 3 different teams.
Yes.
Just
Yeah.
you know, they're moonlighting with
Yeah.
other teams trying
Yeah.
to get playing time, which is always interesting.
It's up to the coach, and it's on the coach because you chose the kids, right?
Yeah.
It's your job to develop the kids. Now, I've been in travel baseball. I didn't coach select. There's a different element to it, and our mindset is first we're gonna get kids. Again, this is travel, not so much to win, but develop for high school and beyond. That was our goal. Now at select, there's difference. I don't think there's so much pressure on being a select player. Now, this youth baseball industry has evolved a lot over the years. And it's so divided from you got select players because they play down, and then you got travel baseball players that play a better competition. Some might play up a little bit. So there's that divide there. And so I think that with that, you have different coaching abilities. You understand what I'm saying? There's guys that probably never, so they play at the select level. And then there's guys that have played, they played at the travel level, which is more competitive. Their goal is to get kids in the high school playing varsity, from varsity to there. So there's a stagnant, but it's been so broken up. And I feel bad for everyone because I advocate for the players, the coaches, and the parents because they get drawn into something, and then guess what? After it doesn't go right, they're jumping ship.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think you've got unrealistic expectations from the parents, from the coaches, from the organizations. We went over the stats in the first half of the season. If you haven't seen that, go back and listen to the Case for Rec Ball. That was an episode we did where I laid out these stats. And the truth is, in any given year, somewhere between 4.5 and 5 million people will play baseball. Yes. And 3% of them will play in high school. And after you leave high school, everything else is degrees of 1%. College, minors, pros, everything is a degree of 1%, all the way up through the highest ranks of the major leagues. And so the idea that, we've got this kid and Johnny's he's got a shot. He's got a shot. So we're going to have him he's the shortstop every time the sun comes up, and we can't possibly ever platoon him or sub for him or, anything else because, and everybody thinks this. And yes, there are some very talented kids out there, but keep in mind, we're talking degrees of 1% here. So unrealistic expectations from the parents on the coaches, from the organization on the coaches, from the coaches of themselves. Yes. It's really easy to be tough on the coaches, but at the same time, the coaches are trying to serve the players, trying to serve the parents, trying to serve the organizations. And when people aren't dealing in reality, it makes it hard to do that.
And sometimes they're trying to serve their ego.
Thank you.
Sometimes that's possible.
That's the key thing right there.
Sometimes that's
Egos.
possible.
And then it puts pressure on those kids.
Oh, yeah.
Remember, the game is a lot of failure involved. These
Right.
kids need to have fun and understand failure at the same time, man.
Yeah.
Because it's
a growth, not only
Yes.
baseball wise, but emotionally. It's being following directions and teaching. Mm-hmm. You got to be able to teach them. But I use a statement that you only can teach what you know. I said, Then I had to use the word you're limited to what you know. Yeah. If you haven't gone higher yourself.
Thank you. Thank you.
But at the same time, though, I want to give some grace to these coaches. Though a lot of them are out there. They're working hard. This isn't their job.
Yeah.
Some of them may be getting paid. A lot of them aren't. And they're trying to serve everybody in every direction. And when the parents, the players, and the organizations are not dealing in reality, it makes it really hard to do that. The other thing that I was thinking about is with regard to the playing time, is the insertion of money, and we're going to talk about this a little later because I have a question that deals directly with it.
Okay.
But when you talk about what people are paying to play, what people are paying to travel, if the coach is being paid, if what is everybody's expectation of that? So, like, let's say I'm paying for Ethan to play in a certain organization. That's costing me however many dollars, and then I'm paying to go to all those things, and that's costing me. And then I know in my head that the coach is getting paid. Does the coach work for me? Well, does the coach work for the organization? Does the coach work for himself? It's very hard for us to keep that straight in our heads. I mean, I can tell you this from, the experience that I've had in organizations. Well, I can tell you this, the experience I've had in church. Okay. The number of people who will say, well, I put money in the offering plate, and they'll look at a pastor and say, I pay your salary. You work for me. Yeah. And that's funny because I really thought that somewhere along the line he worked for God. So, it can be that way when we have this mentality in this country. When we put down money, it's an investment, and somebody we're then owed a return.
Yes.
Well, yes, you may be owed a return for paying to have your child play. At the same time, that return could be quality experience and should be quality experience.
Right. Yeah.
And so if you got to let the coach breathe a little bit in order to be able to give you that, and the coach has to be interested in giving you that. And again, that's back to to interviewing the coach when you show up. Right. We're going to do an entire episode here before long on how to interview a coach in a program at a tryout. That's going to be an entire episode,
even before the tryout.
Yeah.
On the phone,
and how to do the research on that.
In the parking lot.
Yep. So that's going to be coming up
before
real soon. So you finished the season last year, exhausted from all the travel and the tournaments, and you tossed your gear in a bag where it's been sitting all winter. Now you're ready for another year, but your favorite glove that fits just right is an error waiting to happen. The leather's dry, the laces are brittle, and this year you're on a new team with new colors, and it sure would be cool if it matched. Well, wouldn't it be great if you had a glove guy who could help you out with that? You do. His name is Ethan, and he owns Glovehound Baseball Glove Repair Shop in Fairfield, Ohio. Just contact him at glovehound.com and upload pictures of your glove. He'll give you a call back to talk it over, and then you can send it in for a repair, relace, recondition, whatever you need. If you're in the area, you can even just stop by the shop. That way you don't have to bother with shipping, and a lot of times he can even fix it while you wait. Rawlings, Wilson, Mizuno, All-Star, Nakona, he's seen them all, and he's helped players at all levels, from beginners to pros. Last year he worked on a glove that Jose Trevino used in the World Series, and he can help you too. You can find Glovehound on Google, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on the web at glovehound.com. You're only going to get busier, so reach out today and give your glove the love it deserves at Glovehound. Let's move on to the main thing. So my first question is, have coaches always struggled to play all their players, or is this a recent issue? I'm asking this because, George, you were playing baseball long before any of us. Ethan, you're the latest guy to have played baseball, and there's a good, several decade span between the two. Has this always been a problem?
It hadn't been it's been a situation.
Yeah.
And it's not new, but it's just the mindset of the coaches. And like I said earlier, the coaches, many of them go into coaching to win or have a trophy, so that you add to his trophy room or his man cave. And the bottom line, that they're not going in to help develop the kid. And I remember I had parents, saying to me, when are we going to start winning? When are we going to start winning? At that time, I held my tongue, but I said, if I had that chance again, I'll let him know.
Yes.
But I just knew that I'm starting to put it together. And there are kids that haven't played much, but they have skills. Mm-hmm. So now finding what position they can play better, so now we'll be strong at every position. But up to then, I knew that, okay, take a deep breath and understand that long as we don't get blown out, be competitive out there.
So take me back all the way back to California, and young George is playing ball in California. And was it like this back then? What was it like to be a young player coming up when you were doing it in the 60s?
I wasn't really exposed to it a lot in California. it's not being arrogant, but I was one of the better players, so I was going to get a chance to play. But back in high school, though, my freshman year, because I wasn't as tall or big as guys my age, so the coach was really timid in letting me play because he thought I was going to get hurt. So I made the decision to not go play my freshman year, and then I played, it's called Middle League, because I knew I was going to get a chance to play. So I saw the fact that if I wasn't going to get a chance to play, I'm not going to go to this team. And say with parents today and kids, you got to recognize that. But I just still feel that it's working on skills. And then I can go to, there's good tests in the minor leagues with the spring training.
Okay.
So now in spring training, they have a lot of players coming because they're looking to see who's going to keep. They're going to keep in the organization. Mm-hmm. And so I was always trying to do more to get better. But they think that I'm jealous of somebody else getting more time. They said, "Well, don't be concerned about it. You're okay." I said, "I'm not. I just want to go out and get better." Mm-hmm. And so, but I had to do things on my own to get better, not waiting for them to come to me.
Sure.
So I wasn't exposed to it as much when I was growing up. But I see it a lot because I guess monies were involved, prestige or egos are involved. So if you're getting coaches that are really don't know the game, and they're parents, like we give them credit for it, but parents who do not know the game. And I coached at a high school back in Connecticut, and the coach was a teacher, but he loved baseball, but he didn't have any idea how to play the game or teach the game. So, but a lot of factors come into play, that's why I got back into coaching, because I want to try to let people know this is the way you coach, and you want to make sure everybody plays. And I had one kid, in practice, so it's getting dark out, and he was the last guy we're doing soft toss. And later on, the parent came to me. I thought the parent's going to say, "Why did you have my kid last?" But he said, "Thanks for staying to work with my kid." I could have said, "Well, wait till the next day," but I felt that kid's going to be crushed if we did. So you gotta, it's checking out not only attitudes but mindsets of everybody. And you're not going to please everybody, but you have to have a set mindset what you want to do, and you may alter it later on, but you have a set core of things that you want to do.
Well, and you go to when you were in the majors. Let's go to the Big Red Machine here. You've got a guy like Dan Dreesen, who's a fine player, and they found he had playing time. He may not have been part of the starting 8. But he eventually was.
Yes.
And then he got a lot of, found time. They're not going to have a guy like that who's good enough to be on the team that they're paying a salary to, and they're just never going to use him. That's that's silly. No one's going to do that. You brought this guy on. He's obviously got plenty of skill, and we're paying him. He may not be one of the starting 8 at this point. Maybe at this point, whatever, but you're still going to find a place to put him and get him in the game.
You should.
Why would we run lower leagues any differently? Why would we run a youth league differently than they run it in the majors? If you're going to bring a kid on, you did so because he has at least a minimum amount of skill. Why would you not use him somewhere, somehow, sometime on a regular basis?
Some of them try to reinvent the wheel, but a lot of them, they're not they want to make sure that they have enough players.
Yeah.
And I found that sometimes when you get to the latter part of the season, those 3 kids who've been sitting, not even got a chance to swing a bat or get on the field, they end up quitting, and now the coaches get upset with the kid quitting. So why would they sit there and watch? Well, you got to be part of the team. But the reason they signed on is to play.
Right.
And that's the mindset I know. They want to play and finding playing time for them. So a good example, what I did is a guy who started, say, on a Monday, he will maybe not start that Tuesday, but he'll get into the game, pinch hit, pinch run, doing something, being part of the game.
And see, but herein lies our next problem, though, is because if you only ever play tournaments, Now you may have played on Saturday and Sunday, but there is no Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday, Friday the next week. We don't play those league games. We don't play as many games anymore, so there's not as much opportunity to get them all in. Everything's crammed into 4 and 6 games in a weekend, and you're in the pressure cooker of having to win because everything's the playoffs because it's a tournament. So that's a different thing.
I only did tournament play.
Yeah.
But I did practice, so I got a chance to see what the kid could do. So, but I already mapped out how I was going to use guys. Mm-hmm. It's not waiting to the last moment. Oh, that guy, you go in, but the guy never played that position.
Sure.
So now it's going to really hurt the ball club. So I already knew, I had a game plan on how I was going to utilize these guys.
One of the things when I started MD&I is I had rec players, but I had them play at a higher level just to see where they at. That's, I wanted to test my coaching abilities to see how I can develop players, okay? And then one of the things is, we did play tournaments, but what I did was we practiced twice a week. We had practice games.
Yeah, pickup games.
Yeah, where you could and guess what we did during the practice games? We would make it. We made a decision between the coaches that we would stop the game to go over certain situations with kids. That's how you develop players, right there. And it's not about the win and losses. And then when we went in the tournament, we played up. So we challenged kids. We did better playing up than we played kids at their own level. And I think that the way I came up playing, especially when we got to 13, we played 13, 14, and 15 years combined. So when I got into travel, when I first got into coaching, I loved the coaches that I was around because they wasn't afraid to play up, wasn't afraid to play practice games, man. It was more than tournaments and stuff. We did play tournaments. So one of the things that we did, we let people know, our parents know, dedicate at least 5 days a week to there. So that means 2 days of practice. Tournaments run twice, and then maybe a round robin or something like that on that day. That's your 5 days, and the other 2 days that's towards players. But when you get to travel, it is a business, man, and people need to understand that. My fault. It is a business because we got people just throwing money away and thinking that it's a magic pill, select travel, and it's not. You got to put work in, man.
That's a misnomer there.
Yes.
But going back when I was ages of 13 to 15, so we played. At 13, I'm playing against a 14 and 15-year-old.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So I knew that I may not get as much playing time when I was 13, but then I'm with 14 and 15, I'm getting more playing time. Yeah. But at the same time, I get a chance to play up, but in the same league.
Yes.
So I'm playing against this 15-year-old, but it gives you an advantage. Mm-hmm. And you're pitching from that same distance, the base is the same.
You are.
So it was more competitive, but the mindset was there. Okay, you're 13. You're going to play not as much as that 14-year-old.
Right.
But you may give an opportunity. Good example though, when I was in pro ball. So usually it's you're going from rookie league, single A, double A, triple A, major league. So, but this comes into people getting motivated, getting that opportunity. So I always tell people, be prepared for that opportunity. So now after my first year in pro ball, now we go to Fresno, which is high single A. And so I overheard when I was in the outfield and the coach is hitting me fly balls. And I said, why does he keep hitting me fly balls? There's other guys out there. and a little voice said, just let it drop. Don't even go after it. The other voice said, you better check it out. Like Barry White, you better get it. And so I kept catching it. And then all of a sudden later on, it was a Decatur coach and the Fresno coach. He said, that Foster kid, I'm looking for a center fielder. I think I'm going to give him a try. And I said, wow, what if I was gone out there and just not being hustling out there.
Right.
And so I had a good year in Fresno, but then it was going back a step. So I was in fall ball. The fall ball coach, it was a AAA coach. So he saw me play because I was he looked at the averages the first Sunday, and he looked at the averages and said, well, I thought that kid would be much better. And I looked at it, and it was me. And I had an average that you would be playing bingo. It's 081. So by the time that season was over, though, I was at like 308 or 309. But it was an incentive because, wow, they're thinking that I'm better than what I think. And so now I'm in Fresno, getting ready to go to Fresno, and he walks by and says, if you have a good year in Fresno, I'll give you a chance to play AAA. I said, wow, AAA, I've jumped AA. Yeah. And so I had a good year, and all that came true, but I was prepared for it.
Do you think that there is an issue of kids trying to specialize too soon? Now, the reason I'm asking this is one of the things I learned, this was really cool. One of the things I learned from talking to Jose Trevino when he came up here, Jose was not a catcher until the minor leagues. Jose was a shortstop. He thought he was going to be the next Derek Jeter, man. He was all over it. And it wasn't until the minors that they said, your ticket forward is going to be behind the plate if you want to do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, I was terrible. He said, I'm missing the balls. I had to keep running for him. He's like, but I worked and worked and worked and worked and worked at it until I was good enough. And he said, they were absolutely right. That was my ticket to the show.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, you got a guy who, no, I'm a shortstop. This is what I do at that level. And even at that level, they're saying, no, you need to be flexible. You need to do some other things. Well, look at that. George, you wouldn't have had a shot to get in where you did if Pete wasn't flexible enough to say, sure, I played this field, I'll go down and play, third base. That's no big deal.
And I threatened him. No, but it's back to that phrase, being prepared for the opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was playing every fourth or fifth day because I'm being platoon. So Willie Mays always said, be prepared for the opportunity. And even if you're not physically into the game, be mentally into the game, because that Sparky may call on you. You want to be ready. And so I was batting eighth when I got into the lineup and actually leading the team in home runs at the time, batting eighth, playing every fourth or fifth day. So I made that opportunity.
Right.
But working at it, I went to winter ball for 2.5 years to get ready and learning that. And because you're playing against major league experience there.
Yeah.
And so it gave me an opportunity to be prepared. But then now, the Reds weren't doing as well at the time, so now that was my time to shine. But I look back, I said, that was quick in the sense of I didn't ever look at it. That was quick. I got into the lineup on a regular basis like May 8th or so, and then all of a sudden, World Series, 75, 76, and I started to really come into my own, 76, 77, 78, helped me out, leading the league in RBIs and home runs. Like, wow, this guy is a phenom. But last but not least, it goes way back when I got traded from the Giants to the Reds, and Bowie Kuhn, I think, was the commissioner at the time.
Yeah.
And he said to me, the guys in Mays and those guys really have confidence in you, and they figure that you're what you're doing, you're better than that. Like, how does he know me? I don't have a jersey on. My name is on my back. But I said, wow, I better go out there and start working at it. Not just to be here, I'm here. But I found that in 72. I said, yeah, we got into the World Series, but I didn't really feel part of the team because I didn't get a chance to play much.
Yeah, it's funny. When you finally got into the lineup in 75, and it's amazing how overnight sensations are made over a lot of years that nobody knows about, isn't it?
Right.
It's a grind.
They only look at the finished product.
It's a grind.
But the work that you put in.
Yeah. It took a long time for you to be an overnight sensation, didn't
it? But I have to back to talking to people who's been there.
Yeah.
And Joe Morgan, Pete Rose, I keep Willie Mays because he's my idol. But being around guys who've done it. Yeah. And Clemente, I'm asking him about playing the outfield, things as such. So if you want to get better, you want to work at it.
George, what he just said, that whole speech there, that's how coaching should be. Being around people and absorbing that information. That's what makes you a better coach. And that's what made me a better coach. And that's what makes you a better player, being around Mays and all those guys. Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this. So, George, you said when you coached, you did tournament only, but you also figured out a way to have plenty of practice time. Is a coach limited in his ability to get everybody into the game no matter what he does if all you play are tournaments?
Well, you still can. It's like during the season, say the games are not tournament games. I would, or even to get into the tournament, I maybe bat 12. So I have 12, I bat 12. But now when we're into the tournament itself, the heart of it, then I'll bat 9,
Bracket.
but I still have those 3 guys ready to go in to play.
Yes.
So they're going to get a chance to play.
Yeah.
And so it's just figuring out that way. And not only being competitive is important, but getting them a chance to play is more important.
Yeah, I was going to say there are creative ways around that.
It is.
Utilizing those pool play games to your advantage, and especially to keep guys. That's a great opportunity to give guys, new looks, to keep your main guys fresh if you do have main guys. And then also the dreaded consolation game, man. Nobody wants to play that, but it's an opportunity to play another game.
So, you and I have both seen tournaments where people just bag it and go home, and I'm like, I can't believe you do that.
They're
throwing away money.
Yeah, they paid
parents,
for their guaranteed game.
Time
Yes.
that the kids
No,
play.
exactly. So, I mean, you literally have nothing to lose. You already lost the tournament. So try something different,
The other thing I've been wondering is, and I remember from when you were playing these games, you go into a tournament, and the biggest thing is you have a plan for how you're going to use your pitchers. Everybody's, okay, maybe I'm going to bring my ace out early, and then I'm going to bring him back late, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. Whatever you're going to do, everybody thinks about how you're going to use your pitchers. But a lot of times you don't think about platooning any other positions. You think about, everybody else is going to be pretty static. I'm just worried about the pitching. And so let's say you go play at one of these places, like when we were in Myrtle Beach and we're at the Ripken complex, and it's 100 million degrees outside and your feet are burning through your cleats. And how good would it be to move guys around in other places as well?
I'm going to answer that. Okay. So this is what coaches should do, and this is what I've done. So I used to I create a diamond, okay, and I put all the positions, and I break down who can play certain positions.
Right.
Okay. So that's your roster and your depth. Okay. So let's say the first from 9 to 12 years old. I think going back to what George was saying, you play everybody in pool play, get everybody a chance to play and everything. And then when you get to bracket play, hey, my top 10 would play. And I'm saying 10 for listeners, 9 position, and then that 10th player would be an EH or a DH, okay? Then the other 1 or 2 on the bench would either come in to be a position or a pitcher per se. As you move up to 13 and 14, sometimes you can't do that because now you might have 13 to 14 players, because at that level, you want to have, according to your age, 13 to 14, you want to have that many players. Again, going back to what George said, due to injury and things like that. So now guess what you do? This is what I used to do. I used to have a starter and a reliever, and I plan out for 3 games. You got 2 pool play and a bracket, okay? So now, guess what? If I have 13 players, I'm batting, or 12 or 13, I'm batting 10 with an EH. My other players on the bench is they're going to run for the pitcher or catcher. But also the next game, I might have a guy that pitcher, even though he can rake, he's going to pitch the next game. I don't have my catcher comes in the next game. Those are guys that's on the bench, okay? And that kind of create a little bit more playing opportunity, give kids a rest, because, of course, you're on turf fields. You got to think about you're on turf fields. Guess what? That heat is going to break a catcher down, so you got to keep him fresh.
Yep.
You got to keep him fresh. So you got to think, you got to be cognizant.
And when it's hot out there, it's not really platoon, but it's having to catch. One guy's going to maybe catch 3 innings, and the next guy go in and catch 3 innings. So making sure, because you have that maybe 3 or 4 games, we were relying on those guys. But I would always have a catcher, a guy who can catch, but play other positions.
Right.
Yeah.
But also, too, is that certain pitchers only want to pitch to certain catchers.
Oh, yeah. No, the other thing I wanted to throw out there when George was mentioning batting 12 or roster batting, especially in pool play, is that gives you an opportunity to see who's hot for that tournament, and you can take advantage of that. And that's a direct result kind of feedback correlation there. And the parent says, well, how come this guy gets in? Is it, well, he went 3 for 3 or 3 for 4, and he's hot right now. We're going to play him in pool play. You know, your kid's struggling. You know, so we're going to let him, take a back seat, focus on it, and kind of fix it up.
That's part of competition.
Gives you a chance to see everybody.
But I've seen a kid would go up there and strike out 3 times in a row, and I'm not going to torture the kid to go up there the 4th time strike out, and then it's hurting the team.
Well, they didn't.
Yes.
They don't
That's
do that in the
automatic out.
pros either. Like
Right.
we were at the game Saturday night. Gavin Lux had 3 shots, and then they pulled him and put somebody else in. Now, part of that had to do with the handedness of the pitcher,
Right.
and who was in there. But at the same time, if you got a guy he looks like he's going 0 for 4 or 0 for 5, and it's tight, and he's had
Need a
three
bat. Yeah.
bummer at bats. Tito pull him, put somebody else in because
It's
somebody
an
else may
automatic
have
out.
Yeah,
at that
absolutely.
time.
Another kind of side tangent thing that I just a point I want to make is that as a coach, if you work hard to develop your catchers and your strong up the middle guys, your shortstops, your center fielders, then in a way, let's say you're hurting for coaching staff. You don't have any assistants, or maybe you got 1 and you really need like about 3 in order to pull this team off the way you want. If you work hard to train those players, you can have those players running drills,
Right.
Yes.
in different places.
There you go.
Good
You
point,
can have,
Good
and
point.
it kind of helps you. It's kind of like the poor man's assistant coaching staff, but at the same time, those kids are going to thrive on the opportunity to be leaders.
Yes.
If they're really meant to play those positions, they will. And they
You put them in a
want
position to be a leader.
yeah. And so if they're naturally that kind of person, then they're going to rise to the occasion and say, oh, wow, he's got a lot of faith in me. I'm going to go out here and do this, do a good job. So you're also at that point, you're building cohesiveness between your players, because now your players are learning to trust their leader players.
Yes.
You don't get into a game and the coach and the catcher's out there trying to give signals or tell people something, and they're all going, oh God, just get back there and catch the ball. You don't know what you're doing. I've seen that too. So, when you've got the opportunity to build into those players, man, take that opportunity, because it sure could help you down the line.
But Ethan had said earlier, be creative out there, but understanding that you got help. Now utilize that help. A lot of times I'm coaching by myself because, a good example. So I was in a league and I had different levels, and I would have coaches to coach that certain team. So I gave them the lineup, what I wanted, the players I wanted to play. And I looked at it. I said, "Why'd you change the lineup?" Well, I just thought, and I want to be me. I want to be part of. Okay, thanks for your service, but we don't need you anymore. I was like, this is why I'm part of it. I want what I say being carried through.
Absolutely. Well, and you look at there's a case for a lot of guys who are assistant coaches in well-known teams, maybe even on major league teams, who they were players, they had careers, they had plenty of talent, but maybe they're not players you've ever heard of. Maybe maybe their careers were short, or maybe they were just good team players that never really had monster stats or got a lot of spotlight, but they know the game and they know it really well, and they coach those bases. They coach first base, they coach third base, they coach the pitchers, they coach the outfielders, they coach whatever. And those guys, just because you have there's more ways to get a kid in the game than putting him in a position, is what I'm saying. Like, you may be able to utilize their talents in lots of different ways.
I mean, that's the fun part about it, finding a creative way to put the kid into the game.
Yeah.
And back to a guy that had struck out 3 or 4 times. Now the bases are loaded. It's very crucial. Yep. So I'm going to pinch it for the guy. There are 2 instances that really stand out. Going back to high school, I was coaching. So I said, it was a 2-0 count. I told the guy, get a good pitch to bunt. And the ball was over his head, and he bunted it. I said, "Oh, time." He thought I was calling him over to giving him some more advice. I said, "No, you're out. Somebody else is there." And then the other one, I love coaching third base because I feel I can give good guidance, let him know how many outs in the situation. So I said, "Okay, you're tagging up on the fly ball." I said at least 3 or 4 times, tagging up on the fly ball. So a fly ball's hit, what does he do? He goes part way, then he gets back, he couldn't tag up. I said, time, so-and-so come on in. Right then, let him know, you talking about teaching a lesson? Get right away.
Yeah. Well, and when you can't do this in every game, obviously, but when we were playing fall ball, I used to let the kids coach first, let the kids coach third.
Yes.
I used to let them make roster decisions. I used to, guided with guidance and all of that. But at the same time, why not?
Yes.
Why not have them thinking strategy and whatever? And then the other thing is, when you take a kid and have him coaching third or coaching first, all of a sudden he realizes it ain't so easy. Right. And so then he tends to want to listen a little better because he knows that you're making decisions that it's not so easy to do.
Yeah, I remember one game. I think I remember you let us make a lineup. And you want some direct feedback. Well, I should bet here. No, you suck. No, you got to bet here.
Kids are brutal.
Yeah. But you know what? But that's good though, man. That's and going back to what Greg was saying about giving kids autonomy, man. We need to do that
whenever you can.
Yes, because like in indoor training, you'll be amazed, and I think Ethan probably experienced this in high school. Kids that can do front toss, man, they throw it like they throw the ball and they run. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Or can throw live BP.
Yeah, talk about
those
that.
Those are things that kids, we got to give them a chance to do these things on their own instead of controlling everything. Yeah. And it's just like that's why we probably don't see a lot of kids outside on their own throwing baseballs because they don't know how to practice together because our parents controlled everything, man. And we got to get baseball back to the simple things, man. That'll give kids a little bit more a reason to go out in confidence and stuff, man, and be who they are.
Yeah, you talk about that instant feedback. I remember being an incoming freshman, I don't think I'd ever thrown front toss, and I had to throw it to an upperclassman, and I got my butt chewed out because I couldn't get it in right.
Yes.
They were like, "Get somebody else here. This kid's terrible." I was like, "I've never done it before."
Yeah, and so that's where coaches need to, in summer and travel, they need to give those kids the time to do that and give them a chance to throw BP to each other, man. That's the only way you're gonna learn.
The other part of this is I'm gonna step on the soapbox again.
Yes, go ahead.
Because when you play pickup games in a neighborhood, you don't necessarily move into a neighborhood where everybody is the same age as you.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
You play with whoever's in the neighborhood.
Yes.
So some of those kids are older, some of those kids are younger, some of those kids are in between. Sometimes he played last week, but he isn't here because he's at his grandma's house or he went to summer camp. So we got to let this guy play. So we got to whatever. Man, to have your kids playing on their own, man, is the best, in my opinion, the best experience they can have because you got to figure this stuff out. And like Ethan said, you will get instant feedback right now.
Yes, because you get honest feedback from your peers, man. Like, man, we ain't gonna pick you next time.
Yeah. So then let me ask you this. So how does the money affect playing time? You figure, and the three kinds of money come to mind to me. It's the fee that the parent is paying,
yes, sir,
and they're wanting that return. It's the travel cost that everybody is laying out and food and everything else
unknown,
and then it's whether or not the coach is being paid to coach. So what are the ramifications there? How does the money affect what's going on?
A whole lot, but especially if the coach is getting compensated. But for me, with I try to keep the team fee down as much as possible because I know they're paying $1,500, $2,000. Yes. I said, for what? And so now getting involved with RBI, So we're paying like $350
Yeah,
each
$350.
parent.
Yeah.
So we're doing the uniforms, we're doing shirts, maybe hats, but we kept it to a limit. We didn't go out there, well, we're going to 4 or 5 hats, 4 or 5 different. We don't need all that. Just needed we had 2 different jerseys, so we knowing what the jersey would be. But when it comes to, I think, with the coach, you don't have as much control when that coach is getting paid.
Yeah,
Right. No.
And the travel, don't get caught up in that, because making sure that your kid's going to play, because you're going to pay a lot of money, not the hotels or whatever other travel expenses. So it's not a set amount. And just want to also make sure that kid really wants to play. He wants to go to another level, because we talked about it before. How much investments are you willing to put into getting the kid to develop,
Right.
getting
Yeah.
exposure?
I
Sometimes I think, because a parent doesn't have that honest conversation up front and says, okay, before we lay all this out, let's talk about degrees of 1%. And let's say maybe it's time to play for fun, or, play a different league and concentrate our time on some other skill that you're really, really good at in your life.
Right.
I'm going to say something.
Sure.
We're saying this is in support of the coaches. Certain coaches are probably telling and being realistic with parents and the kid.
Oh, yeah.
Guess what?
Yeah.
Those are the guys that's like, oh man, I'm gonna start my own team because I didn't want to hear what he didn't told me. So now we recreating something else. We're recreating another team because this coach didn't want to hear the truth about where their kid is at. And so
The parent didn't want to hear
the
that.
parent,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
the parent didn't want to hear that.
Ethan is more than my podcast partner. He's my son. And like every baseball parent, my first priority was his development as a player. Every year, we'd start out with a new coach and a new team, making new promises, only to end up playing the same old tournaments with little to no practice in between. You know what I'm talking about. That's why I'm so thankful that we found MD&I Academy. I first met Coach Rick over a decade ago when Ethan was just a kid, and I'll never forget the relief I felt watching his first lesson. I knew right then that no matter what team he played for, my son would have amazing, consistent instruction from someone who cared. Rick has trained baseball and softball players at the select, travel, and even college levels, so I knew that Ethan could continue his excellence through training approach for his whole baseball career. He learned hitting, pitching, catching, fielding, and more all in one place. Most of all, he learned to love the greatest game in the world and how to play it with character and integrity. So if you're wearing yourself out, running all over town to multiple teachers, or worse, you're counting on that new select coach to actually develop your child, you need to check out MD&I Academy today. Go to mdaiacademy.com and contact Coach Rick to learn how you can get all the baseball instruction you need from someone who cares about your favorite player as much as you do at MD&I Academy. But I want to kind of narrow this down to a kind of a final list of strategies for coaches, how to get all the kids in the game. So here's what I've heard so far. Okay. I've heard work your pinch runners and your pinch hitters. Get people in even if they didn't have an at-bat or even if they're not playing a position. Can you get them in? Can you roster bat? Bat them anyway, even if they're not playing a position in that particular game. It at least gets them in the game. Can you, this is one we didn't talk about, but one I wanted to bring up. Can you have other jobs for them to do besides sit on the bench and watch their friends play? Yes. Can they have organizational jobs to do? Can they keep stats? Can they, do?
Yes.
Can they be in the game? Make sure they're in the game mentally. Don't just have them sitting over there doing nothing, waiting for their shot.
Chart pitches.
If you can at least, have them look for signs, have them, look for habits, look for tells, look for, whatever. Engage them strategically in what's going on and instruct them accordingly. While they're not playing a position, can they still be part of the game? That's a great way to do that. We've also talked about practice. Make sure you have lots and lots of practice so you can see what everybody's doing, or as much practice as you can get. I know even from coaching some of these teams, it's hard because you say, well, we're going to practice 2 times a week. And the parent's like, well, we might be there. We might not be there.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next thing you know, you've got 5 kids who show up every time you put something on the calendar, and you never know if you're going to have enough for a practice. And you can't just boot everybody who didn't come to practice because then you don't have a team, and it puts the coach in a hard spot. So,
but I usually not practice the whole, maybe say that Friday we're going to have the tournament starting Saturday, practice the team then. But up to then, during the week, I'm going to practice maybe 2 or 3 guys at a time.
Right.
And then I'll bring them all together.
And that's what I was going to, that's an excellent point, George. So if you can't, if it's hard for your parents, because, there's lots of demands on time. You got, well, I can't come because his sister does this, his brother does that, and we can only be so many places at once and all this. Okay, then we're going to do catchers and pitchers on this one day. We're going to do outfielders on this day. We're going to do infielders on this day. We're going to do batting, whatever. Just, break it up so not the whole team has to be at every practice. And at that point in time, maybe you can get that practice time in. The other thing we talked about is using them in games that maybe aren't as critical to in a tournament. Use them in the pool play games.
Yeah.
Right.
Make sure you give it, because they may show you something in a pool play game that makes you go, you know what? You just earned a spot when we play in bracket play because you're just tearing it up this weekend, and I'll take that.
Upgrade it.
Yeah. Pickup games. Play pickup games as much as you can. Call another team directly and say, hey, you guys got time next week? What about Tuesday? What about Thursday?
Yes.
Can we play a game? I'll get us a field.
Yeah.
Again, that's the other thing is it's hard to get a field a lot of times. It's hard to have a place to play.
Field in the time.
So, if you can, do the best you can to get those pickup games in. The other thing is, if you're going to practice, see if you can practice along with another team. Why could you not schedule your practices together at the same time, be on the same field, do a scrimmage? Maybe you work with both outfields at one over here and, whatever, and you're combining with the other team. You've got more coaches on the premises, and you're working with more kids at once. And then you can also do some gameplay because you've got enough kids to field 2 sides. It's not
smart.
something you would do in every practice, but if you can't get the pickup games in and fields are hard to get anyway, you could call somebody and say, hey, I got a field. We're going to have a practice. Y'all want to join us? Because then we'd have more kids and we could actually do some play. Smart. You might find that there's a lot of coaches who want to take you up on that.
Yeah,
so
that is true.
These are some ideas. What kind of things have I
a great
missed?
idea.
What other strategies do we have to
One
get people
we
in?
didn't really talk about, but it's for me, it's the core of it: situational play or situational hitting. So in practice itself, so like the first round or so, you get 7 swings. So now you're going to have the kid hit the ball, a couple of bunts, hit the ball to the right side, and give situation infield in, infield out, so that now when it happens in a game, they're already prepared for it, and then actually have kids on base so that now they can really feel a game situation in the situational plays where to throw the ball. You call out man on first, 1 out, a ground ball, then you hit a ground ball. See what they're going to do. Is it going to hold it and read it, or are they going to go for the double play? And then in the outfield, when you're on base and also in the outfield, knowing when to tag up. So at second base and no outs, a fly ball is hit, you know right away what to do and not hesitating. And the outfielder, they know where to throw the ball. So it makes a big difference in being able to anticipate situations. And so a lot of those things come into play that makes a difference in the result.
Also, have coaches that can throw good BP.
Oh, that's important.
And that can be hard to find.
And,
Worm burners.
I've always had good coaches, and that's one of the things when I develop a coaching staff, find guys that are a little bit athletic, at least they can catch, field, throw, and stuff, and find out what their strengths and what their weaknesses are, and I can fill in that. Another thing is I give my coaching staff the autonomy to be who they are. I'm going to be me, but because maybe I can be the bad guy, they could be the good guy. So basically, I know the way that I coach, and maybe another coach might come across a little different, and can make that kid kind of buy in, so to speak. So again, this is where ego comes in. So I've never had an ego, and that's probably why I have good coaches, man. Allow them to be who they are. Doing BP, inside or outside, I know that I throw hard and I throw different pitches to kids, and I have other coaches that throw probably a lot different. But that's a good way where kids can make adjustments to the different coaches as they go through, okay? And that's how you become a good hitter. Learning how to bunt, drag bunt, push bunt, all those different things. So just
learn as much as you can.
Yes, and just developing. I think it starts with a good coaching staff, man. A good coaching staff makes you look good.
Sure. And another couple of thoughts, some other things that we mentioned that I wanted to bring back out. When you're in an inconsequential game, like if you're playing fall ball, you're playing, you're doing practice, you're doing scrimmage, you're doing whatever, let your kids coach first and third.
Yes.
Let your kids make the lineup. Let your kids decide what happens here and there or whatever. Train those people. My thing was always, if I got hit by a bus, can these guys still go out and play? I want to make sure they can go out and play. They're not so, dependent on me. Mm-hmm. And that they're developing. Make them work through those situations in their head because they'll become better players. The other thing is, George, you mentioned playing up a lot. Now,
me too.
I just thought about this. Like, if I got a team of 13-year-olds and I got a practice scheduled and I got a field, all right, I'm sitting on top of the world because I got a practice and I got a field, all right? I'm calling like a 14-year-old team and saying, hey, I got to practice and I got a field. Do you want to come join us? I'm using that to maybe, can I not only bring in another team, could I bring in another team so that we're playing up?
Right.
And really give them that shot and tell the kids, look, we're going to practice against a team that's older than you.
And not even tell them.
Yeah.
I don't never tell them.
Or tell them afterwards. Yeah. I mean,
yes.
You know what? You guys did pretty well today.
Yeah.
And they
get psyched out when you tell them.
Thank you. Yes. Don't tell them.
School team.
Yep. Don't tell them. Nope. You don't tell them. Thank you.
Level swing. Let it travel. Wait for your pitch. Be aggressive out there. It's no wonder young players get confused at the plate. What if your son or daughter could learn not only how to hit the ball, but also where to hit it, when to hit it there, and why? George Foster has played baseball at the very highest levels. He was the National League MVP when he hit 52 home runs and 149 RBIs in a single season. He led the major leagues in home runs twice and RBIs 3 times. He was a 5-time All-Star, a Silver Slugger, and he helped the Reds win back-to-back World Series. During his 15-year career, George developed a unique approach to hitting that made him one of the greatest hitters of all time, and now your favorite player can learn it too. That's right, baseball legend George Foster is currently accepting new students. Learn the psychology of hitting, situational hitting, hitting for power, bunting, and more. Every team needs players who can hit, and George explains the game in a way that's easy to understand and exciting to learn. So check out GeorgeFosterBaseball.com to learn how you can apply for private lessons with a member of the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. Spots are limited, and the roster will fill up fast, so don't wait. Apply at GeorgeFosterBaseball.com. So yeah, hopefully we were able to bring in some good suggestions on how to remain competitive and get everybody in the game, get everybody doing something on the field. Or, even if you're in the dugout, are you doing something? Are you engaged? What's going on? Because the more we can keep everybody engaged, the more fun they're going to have. And that's what they paid to do anyway, was be a part of a team. And, to say, well, you got to be part of the team and your part of the team is sit on your butt and watch all your friends play. That sucks.
Right.
That sucks. That's not a good return on anybody's investment. So, that's the deal. And it may require that the coaches have to, they may have to tell some parents some hard things. Yeah. They may have to say, look, I know you think you believe that your child has the ability to go, become the next big thing here. But I told you guys from the beginning, everybody's going to play and everybody's going to play. So that's just the way it is. And I'm going to stick to it. And I'm sorry if that upsets you, but that's the way we're going to do it.
But as far as the coaches, making sure that winning is a byproduct.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that would be my encouragement to organizations too. If you're out there and you're running an organization, you got multiple teams underneath you and you're running an organization and you're trying to figure out, man, my challenge is find a way to major in development and let winning be the byproduct. Major in development. That's the thing.
In the long run, it'll work out.
Yeah, you're right. And the kids that have the ability will shine. They will. Right?
Yeah.
They will show themselves and they will shine. And they will. There is so much opportunity to play out there. If a kid has a ton of talent, there are community colleges, there are junior colleges, there are big colleges. There's lots of places that if your kid is one of those 3% to 1% kids, just because they sat out a game is not going to determine their career. It'll be all right.
Well, it's checked out their attitude. So that, because when you get higher, it's not a guarantee. Get to higher level, it's not a guarantee you're going to play on a regular basis. And I found that out going from, say, in the minor leagues playing every day. Then you get to the major league, it's a different thing. You're going to be playing part time.
Well, and that was a fun thing is that again, the day we met Jose and we were talking to him, the idea that they were fielding 3 catchers at the time and trying to figure out, that was before Austin got traded, I think, and to hear him talk about the other catchers, they were his buddies. They were his.
Oh, yeah.
He wanted to see them succeed. There was no
animosity.
Competition. I got to get out there in front. He wants to see Stevenson succeed. He wanted to see the rest of this was his thing. And I've heard you talk over and over again about so-and-so, yeah, he's my friend, or he's my friend. I've known him for years, or we still talk from now and again. And you would think that because they played for another team or because you were maybe competing either in a big game or on the same team for playing time or whatever, that there would be this, terrible competition. And there really isn't at that level, because by that point in time, you're all professionals. Yeah, everybody's trying to do as best they can.
Should be.
But at the same time, if you're not on the field, then you're still wanting your team to succeed.
Everybody be sound. Everybody doing the best they possibly can.
That's a great lesson to teach our kids because it brings them to maturity. And this is where I'm going to end today. And that is, playing time aside, the most important thing we can do with young players is turn them into mature human beings. And mature human beings are people who are not petty, who are not spiteful, who are not selfish. They are people who genuinely play as great team players and want their teams to succeed. If you go back to the first part of season 1 and you listen to the episode we did on how to be a great team player, there's some good information in there on this. But the idea is, when your child becomes a mature individual, as they do that, they will begin to think less about what's in it for them and more about what's in it for the team, and they will support their friends. They will have a better experience because of it, and they will become better human beings, and it will serve them better in life, because if they don't go on to be professional baseball players, which we know 99 point bunch of things kids will not, they become good employees, they become good team members, they become good business owners, they become good leaders, they become good neighbors,
good husbands,
good fathers. And fathers and friends.
Good at what they do.
And that is important. And those are the things that, George, you've said over and over and over again, teaching life through using baseball, teaching how to become a great human being using baseball. I've seen Rick do it over and over and over again, teaching those lessons of growing to maturity and becoming a good person using the principles of baseball. That's what this is all supposed to be about. And winning a cheap little ring at the end of a weekend pales in comparison to creating good human beings. And our hope would be that every coach wants to and has the support to do so.
That'd be their mindset. That's their goal.
And these kids would have a great experience because of it. So thanks for joining us today. Thanks for being a part of our conversation about how to get everybody to play and still be competitive. We hope that you'll come back next week and join us. In the meantime, you can listen to all of the first half of season 1, any place that you find podcasts, be that Apple or Spotify or wherever. And you can also find us at CompleteGamePodcast.com or on Facebook or on Instagram or on YouTube. So we hope that you would continue to be a part of what we're doing, and we'll see you next week on the Complete Game Podcast.
Have a good time.
We hope you've enjoyed the Complete Game Podcast, the show that's all about baseball. New episodes drop each week, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. If you'd like to support the podcast, consider leaving us a 5-star rating, or better yet, drop us a comment or a question and let us know what you think. The Complete Game Podcast is produced and distributed by 2 Creative Digital Marketing. Check us out at 2creativedigital.com. On behalf of Ethan, Coach Rick, and the Silver Slugger George Foster, I'm Greg Dungan saying have a great week, and we'll see you real soon.